Today, we're talking about everything that I learned from reading Atomic Habits that actually changed my life. Normally speaking, whenever we want to change our lives, we're told to think big, aim for the stars, take a leap of faith. We overestimate the importance of single actions and we underestimate the power of making small improvements over a period of time. And what if I told you that you could achieve the exact same result by becoming 1% better every day? And I know what you're thinking, 1% better isn't a whole lot. If you get 1% stronger, if you speed up your reading by 1%, if your business gets better by 1%, you're probably not going to notice. That said, if you get 1% better every day, at the end of the year, you're going to be 37 times better. And how do you do this? By making small changes to your habits over time. Because as James says, your outcomes are the lagging results of your habits. Your weight, your finances, your knowledge, the problems that you keep bumping into are just a reflection of the habits you've been practicing over a long period of time. And that is exactly what this book is about, creating good habits and breaking bad ones. And I think this is a great place to start. 1. What progress really looks like. I used to think of progress like a linear line. You put in a little bit of effort and you get a little bit better. You put in a bit more effort and you get a bit better. Turns out it's not exactly like that. The line is very similar to the compound effect I talk about at least once a month. Initially, when you get started, you get 1% better. It's not really noticeable, but as you persist and you continue on, it starts snowballing like crazy. And I've seen this in a bunch of different areas of my life. For example, in my business, today I put in about the same amount of effort as I did 10 years ago. But because of the compound effect, because getting 1% better every day, the returns are far greater today than they were 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it would take me a few weeks to read a book and take some notes, whereas now I can do that in a few days. And the reason things are different now is because of all the work that I put in years ago. As James says, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. They don't seem to make much of a difference on any given day, but over months or even years or even decades, they make a huge impact over your life. The problem is a lot of people don't get to see the overnight success or the lucky person or the getting lucky because they get stuck in what's called the valley of disappointment before the ball really gets rolling. Why? Most people expect big gains or huge gains early on because they're putting in so much time. But unfortunately, that isn't the way it works. Stay the course, be patient. And a big thing that will help with that is to screw goals, set systems. Now, I'm not saying don't set goals. That would be rather contradictory to what I've said in the past. What I mean is, instead of focusing on the goal, focus on the system. Instead of focusing on the what, focus on the how. So right now, my goal is to have abs. And yes, Mr. Smarty Pants, I'm aware that I have the muscles right now, but what I mean is I'd love to have abs after eating a whole pizza and eating a liter of ice cream. Now, instead of focusing on the end result, I can focus on the how. So I can't control what my body does, but what I can control is my calorie intake. I control how many times I head to the gym. I can control skipping a cheat night on Saturday. And if I keep doing that for a long period of time and my body allows it, I'll end up with the result that I want. And if not, I'll end up with some healthy habits for myself anyway. And I can hear your little brain churning away and thinking, what's the problem with focusing on goals? So James identifies 4 main problems with goal setting. Winners and losers have the same goals. Every Olympian wants the gold medal. Every candidate wants the job. Every YouTuber wants to make it big. And yes, even the ones that say they do it just for fun. So it can't be goals that differentiate people. Achieving the goal is only momentary change. For example, my office used to be a fucking mess. There used to be dust in all the nooks and crannies, everything that you can't see on camera. And every once in a while, say every 2 to 3 months, I'd pick up the motivation to clean the mess and declutter, right? But of course, because I never really addressed the habits, a few weeks later, down the line, it would be a mess again. And that's the same with a lot of your goals, right? Say you want to lose weight. A temporary diet would 100% help you lose weight. But again, unless you've made the adequate lifestyle changes, you're probably going to put all that weight back on again. So focus on the how and the end result will take care of itself. Goals restrict our happiness. Why? Because oftentimes we adopt this mindset of, I'll only be happy if I achieve this goal. And what does that do? It sucks the fun out of life. And finally, goals are at odds with long-term progress. And I've got another quote from the man himself. The purpose of setting goals is to win the game, and the purpose of setting systems is to continue to play the game. Take this YouTube channel for instance. Technically, I could set a goal of getting 1,000 or 10,000 subscribers or 1 million views, but what would be the point of that? I'm not trying to complete YouTube. I'm not trying to tick it off my list. I love making videos. I love helping people, and no number is going to change that. That said, 1 million subscribers would be nice, so be sure to hit that subscribe. And how do you stick with it? Easy. On paper, that is. You just have to change who you are. Like I said in the last video, according to the man himself, identity change is the North Star of habit change. And for this one, we're going to need a little diagram. Outcomes are our goals, the things we want, the things we strive for. Processes in the middle are our systems, are our habits. And finally, at the center of it all is our identity, the way that we see ourselves. Now, most of us focus on the outcomes to change our identity, whereas what we need to do, we need to focus on changing our identity in order to change the result, to change the outcome. As our boy James says, the ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of our identity. When we make changes for the sake of outcomes, we only make them temporarily, pretty much until we've got the outcome we want. But in order to make changes long term, we actually need to change our identity. Way back whenever I wanted to change a habit, what I'd always focus on is the outcome. I'd always focus on the goal I had in mind. Because I want to be in shape, I won't eat this donut. Because I want to be in shape, I'll go to the gym. But instead, you actually have to change who you are and how you see yourself. For example, I used to go through the McDonald's drive-thru at least a few times a week. I mean, I was about 30 to 40 kilograms heavier than I am today. But now, I couldn't even tell you the last time I went through the drive-thru. And why is that? Because I see myself as a healthy person. So I asked myself, would a healthy, athletic person go through the McDonald's drive-thru a few times a week? Probably not, so I don't either. And I know what you're thinking, Simon, that sounds great and all, but how do you actually change who you are? Easy, vote for yourself. You need to act like the hypothetical version of yourself would act. And I know I've said this dozens of times, but in order to do that, you need to create a vision for your life, a vision for yourself, and a vision for who you want to be. And this hypothetical version of yourself, of your life, needs to be beyond compelling. Otherwise, you're going to revert back to what you've always been doing. Which leads us to the most important part of the book: how do we actually build a habit and overcome the difficulty of doing so? 6, how to build a habit. And this is where the habit loop comes into play. The cue triggers the brain to initiate an action. The craving provides a motivational force which results in a response. And the reward is the end goal. And it's these 4 things that lead to what James Clear calls the 4 laws of behavior change. So the first law is to make it obvious. So this is designing our environment in a way where the cues are inevitable. For example, I'm trying to live a bit healthier. So I went out, I bought some protein powder, some athletic greens, some creatine powder, some fish oil tablets, the works. The only problem was, initially I had them at the very top of the cupboard, they weren't unwrapped, so I kept on forgetting to take them. So how did I fix the problem? Now whenever I get supplements, what I do, I unwrap them and I put them into an easy access cupboard. So now when I have my first meal of the day, my supplements are right there, I can take them and it's so much easier and I don't forget them. As James says, you want to put fewer steps between you and the good behaviors and more steps between you and the bad ones. The next law is make it attractive. This is just making the desired behaviors a little bit more appealing so that it increases the odds of them becoming a habit. So for example, you could pair something you already do with something you want to do. So let's say you love listening to podcasts and you want to lose some weight. So maybe now what you could do is maybe you only listen to podcasts when working out. And the third law is make it easy. Anything you can do to remove friction between what you want to do is going to pay dividends in the long run. For example, I try and read about 1 book a week. I can't read a book in one setting, so what do? I always keep a book in the living room. So now when I wake up, I get prepared for the day, I just sit down and read for 1 to 2 hours. And by the end of the week, what's happened? I've read a full book. And the 4th law is make it immediately satisfying. Our brains have evolved to prioritize immediate rewards over delayed rewards. And the number 1 rule in behavior change is what is immediately rewarded is repeated and what is immediately punished is avoided. We get short-term bursts of dopamine when we drive through the McDonald's drive-thru, when we jump on TikTok for hours, or when we watch Squid Games, and it's more likely that we're going to repeat these actions. And before you say anything, being able to delay gratification sounds great on paper, but most people won't be able to do that. To develop better habits, James says, we should try and attach some form of immediate gratification so that we can make the habit immediately satisfying. And after reading this book, I realized that I needed to make working out more immediately satisfying. So what did I do? I went out and I bought myself a sauna. So now when I work out, my reward is jumping in the sauna for about 20 minutes where I can meditate and then I go and jump in the ocean. And now the fact that I've got these things lined up for after a workout, it makes it immediately satisfying, which means now it's just become part of my routine. It's part of a habit. Now, what about breaking a bad habit? Long story short, to break a bad habit, just do the opposite. So instead of making it obvious, make it invisible. Say you want to eat less processed shit, stop buying it. Say you don't want to spend so much time on your phone, well maybe chuck it in the cupboard. Instead of making it attractive, make it unattractive. So this is unfortunately easier said than done. So you need to reframe your mind. So what I do is I tend to think about the negative consequences. So if I continue to do this habit, what will my life look like in 1, 5, or 10 years from now? Instead of making it easy, make it difficult. Add steps to the process to make it harder to perform the habit. Let's say you want to play PlayStation. Well, if it's kept away in a cupboard, it's going to be a lot harder for you to play it. Or let's say you want to sit there and scroll on Twitter. Well, it's going to be very hard for you to do that if you've deleted the app. And finally, instead of making it satisfying, make it unsatisfying. And this too is sometimes easier said than done. Sometimes, if you're like me, the best thing to do is get an accountability partner, someone to hold you to account. It could be your partner, it could be someone in a mastermind, but those things work really well. Now, since I saved you about 5 to 6 hours of reading, do me a favor and hit a like on the video. And if you're ready to fall further down the self-help rabbit hole, be sure to check out this next video. See you again next week. We got there!